I am Lequita Brooks, your social impact speaker and strategist. Welcome to Social Impact Sundays at 6, where we have massive social impact that leads to massive income. And today we have Shara Ruffin today. She is a social work career and exam prep expert. She's a coach, she's a consultant, she's like LinkedIn Voices. She does a variety of things. Welcome.
Thank you, Miss Lequita Brooks. And I know so much about you as well. You are such a trailblazer to me. Um, Thank you so much for what you do for social workers. And I am glad to be here.
Yes, I am excited. So, first, we're going to start out with what inspired you to pursue social work?
I would say I grew up in a low income housing facility. My parents were two teenage parents, and I was exposed to social workers pretty early. At the time, I didn't have much knowledge about them. It wasn't until college, I was a psychology major, and I decided to switch, mostly because I had a C, and that was a good epiphany that this wasn't for me. It's too much science, baby. So let me go ahead and go to counseling. And I was told by my advisor I could do therapy faster if I switched to social work. At the time, I had the audacity. I have a thought of don't they just take away kids, and there was so much more. I fell in love with the field and spending 18 years plus, been in it ever since.
So, you had that same outdated narrative like most people. Oh my goodness, all social workers do is take kids.
I did. I did. I did.
So, at what point did you recognize, okay, so there's more to social work than taking kids? While it was still, were you still in school when you figured that out, or had you
Yes,
graduated?
probably right after my intro class, I figured that out real quick. Um, and I mean that was like in the early 2000s. For me, it was a good switch that I think I needed. I fell in love with the social work, specifically because of how diverse it was. And it's ironic now because it's the same stigma and thought process that I fight. So yes.
And while we're talking about stigmas, what are some of those other outdated stigmas, narratives that you're like, goodbye, good riddance? I do not want to hear this ever again.
Well, ultimately, that social workers don't make any money. You know that one, Miss Brooks, very well. And I'm like, honey, no, that's definitely not true. It's one, I think it's perpetuated in society, but it's also one that is internalized by us and reinforced in terms of how we value ourselves and how we value our services and what we do. And that was something for me that I fought most of my career. And especially going into entrepreneurship is one that I still had to fight in terms of how I looked at myself and value myself. So I'll share a very brief, it'll be a brief story, and this will probably emphasize that point. When I first started my business, I did it for free for the first 6 or 7 months. I had a coach who inadvertently became my coach. His name was Eric Reed, who became my publisher. I remember I met him in Clubhouse, and after sharing my story of how I started, he said, "You're giving something away that people are benefiting from, and it's working. You need to monetize it." I said, "No, I just want to help." He said, "Okay, but you're still broke. It took you 10 years to get this license, and you're giving it away. You still have bills to pay. You still have children to feed. What are you doing?" He said, "This has more to do with you and how you value yourself and the internalization." He's a social, well, he it was exposed to social workers and had a personal experience with them. He said it has more to do with you than it does with your ability to ask for what you want. And looking at your clients and saying, "Oh, they can't pay for that." You don't know what they can pay. If it works, they will. And I'll never forget, 2 months later, I made my first $10,000. That was in July 2021 in 1 month. And I said, he was right. Not going back ever since. And that was a quick, it was a mindset shift. Whenever I tell that tiny piece of the story from a revenue standpoint, it was my mindset about myself and my value had to change and what I offered. And be able to market and monetize that and make sure that my target audience saw that. So
Exactly. A mindset shift to like actually having a money mindset, and that it's okay to be able to make money and make a difference. And you
Mhm.
also made some other mindset shifts when it came to licensure in the process. Tell us more about that.
So for me, my licensing process, like many social workers, especially of those of us coming from marginalized communities, it has been a firestorm with the board, ASWB, regarding that exam test that they did. I think it was like 10 years they did a study, and the three people that they said that didn't pass, I believe this came out in August 2022, were people that could speak English as their first language, were older test takers, and people of color. And it was a big firestorm. And when that came out, I thought, oh well, I'm like, this is something we already knew. We didn't need a study to tell us that. So my journey with the licensing actually started before my business. It started 10 years ago when I graduated from Howard. A year later, I took my exam, failed it by 3 points in 2011, took it over again, passed it 2 years later in 2013. And then 9 years later, I took my clinical for the first time, missed it by 2 points. And it took me about a year before I was able to get back into the testing center because the pandemic hit. When I tell the pieces, the in between of that story of what birthed my business, it was the fact that I had a lot of life circumstances happen for it to be 10 years. In the midst of taking my exam, I had a stillborn baby, Asia Rogers, who was 7 months in utero. My ex-husband was in Kabul, Afghanistan during his tour, and we lost the baby. That was my first child. And it was pretty devastating. After that, my marriage started to fall apart. I became a single mother, working in the psych hospital, having another second child, my son Jaden, who's now 10 years old in June. But back then, he was medically compromised, had a surgery at 6 months, and then he became colic and really, really irritable and had medical issues up until he was 5 years old. Now, I worked 3 hours away from home, no public, no car. So I had to get on public transportation, two trains and a bus to get to work. And I did this for about 7 years, on top of walking a mile, because the hospital I worked at was an industrial park. So there are a lot of tractor trailers. I-95, I had to cross that traffic it was pretty dangerous just to get to work every day. Sleet, snow, rain, I was there because I had to provide for this little boy. On top of getting my hours, it took 5 different supervisors, two LCSWs, a PsyD, MFT, LPC, to get my hours done, because every year my job, we would have high turnover. So on top of that, then actually getting my hours done, my son goes to kindergarten, losing basically my part-time job a week before the pandemic, after missing my exam the first time by 2 points, then becoming depressed for 8 or 9 months. Like my career's at a standstill. I now have 3 children to take care of. I'm about to be evicted from my home. I'm stuck and I'm broken. On top of that, I found out I have ADHD combined type. So not only do I have to fight with my depression, the struggles of the exam, getting to that point of being able to qualify to take it, all the life circumstances I had to deal with over the years to get to that point in my career. But I also had to deal with, my mental health that was untreated at the time, not having insurance, then getting state insurance. It was a debacle. Well, when I actually did pass my exam, I got treated for my generalized anxiety disorder, the ADHD, the learning disorder. I shared it on LinkedIn. It blew up. And it was like over 100,000 people that saw it. And I'm like, what are people responding to? It was the journey of how long it took to get a license that takes 2 years. It took me 10. And sharing all the life lessons that I learned from a lot of the situations, the losses, the grief, the mental health issues I experienced, the symbolic losses, that the transitions that I had. People really resonate with it. So I started getting on Clubhouse and sharing that story. And I had no idea it was going to turn into what it did. But really helping social workers, not just those that have never been exposed to the licensure, but people that really struggle like me, that have TBIs, that have cognitive deficits, that have learning disorders. Some social workers I coach, didn't even know they had a neurodevelopmental disorder, didn't even really address their academics. It was pretty much brushed over. So having them go for evaluations, working with them from a holistic standpoint, teaching them how to study. So when I work with people, I usually tell them first off the back, I'm not a tutor. I tell them that I'm more of a coach because of my background of being a therapist, 18 years, on top of specializing in the very things that I assess for before someone comes on for exam coaching, on top of um, taking a holistic standpoint in terms of tailoring their process to them based on how they learn. A lot of self-study programs don't have the ability to do that. They're built for the masses. There are a lot of popular ones out there. Tutors have one mode of coaching. It's not tailored to the person. They have a mode of coaching there of tutoring that they're familiar with. Most of them just give practice questions only. Where I come in is to fill that gap in the middle between people that need more on-call, tailored coaching to their learning style, and they may have other things going. They may be depressed, they may be untreated, they may have compassion fatigue, they may be busy parents with 6 kids. I had a guy like that who was just overwhelmed and needed to pass his boards within a certain amount of time. They may have debilitating anxiety where they failed their exam several times and they're now fighting with themselves and their mindset along with crippling confidence. Those are the people that I have been able to help reach. I've helped pass a lady that was blind. She passed my group program for the first time, her master's last year, and she cannot see. I had a lady, Shannon Shriver, who a Caucasian lady in Boston during my first year, and she is deaf. And I worked with her through an interpreter for 7 weeks. She passed her LCSW for the first time. I didn't know I had that ability to help people in that way. It wasn't until I started sharing the story what were some of the nuances, the gaps that I saw, the pain points that I knew I could help people. And I've been on this journey for 3 years. I thought I was going to go into private practice. It never happened. And I guess God said, hey, this is where you need to be. And you're here to help people through what you've been through. So that's the that's the rundown.
Oh my
She's like, oh, I
goodness.
gave you a lot.
It is fine. First, I want to say I appreciate your transparency, your vulnerability, and also I commend your perseverance because you were navigating a lot of life experiences. Grief with the loss of a child, also grief with the loss of a marriage in the process of that, grief and just the loss of what you thought life should have been in that particular moment in that season, and yet you still chose to persevere, push through because clearly there was something inside of you that regardless of what your current situation looked like, what was going on, you knew that there was more for you. You desired more for yourself, you desired more for your family, you desire more for the people that you served and supported, or not served and support, you currently serve and support. It's like there was something that was inside of you. So what advice would you give to someone who's dealing with life like right now in this second? Because clearly there was something inside of you that still allowed you to keep putting one foot in front of the other, even if it felt like you was being pushed back, even if you was being stopped, even if you were like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this public transportation is running late today and I need to get to work.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, in the cold and all the things, what would you share to them if to someone that's in a spot where they're like, this is it. Like I'm at my wit's end. I just don't know. I don't know if I can pick up my foot again and take that next step.
I would probably say that everyone's journey, I tell this to my students, and when I get those consultation calls, when you're in the midst of a storm, you're not able to see, grab a life vest. That life vest is whatever support you can grab. Because sometimes when those storms do come, you feel like you want to give up, you do. And I can say over the 10 years, there are times when I just held on to whatever I could hold on to, and I kept it moving. I had to. For me, I didn't feel like I had a choice as a mother of being responsible for another life. I felt like I needed to. Um, you have to find it within yourself what it is, that thing that's going to keep you going. And for everyone, that's going to be very different. My advice to the person that feels stuck is know that it will not be that tomorrow. That oftentimes when the storms do come, it sounds a little cliche, but they do pass. it just sometimes it doesn't pass for weeks, days, years, but it does. When you go through those things, there's a reason why. There's lessons that you're supposed to pull from those experiences that are not really for you, that are for the person behind you that you haven't met yet. Whenever I look at the nuances of my story, and I think, man, I could have given up. There were times where I wanted to, when I lost my daughter, um, when I was going through supervision with every supervisor leaving, when I was going through a toxic work environment, when I had to go through public transportation. Girl, I could tell you some stories. Bed bugs, lice, I'd have seen it, had it all in my house. Okay. Um, even my fiance, who's my soon to be husband, was like, I don't understand. I think I knew I had to fight for, I didn't work too hard, my degrees, my experiences to let this thing go. And there are times I could never imagine having a magic, if someone had a magic ball and a crystal ball for me to look and say, hey, you're going to be here. Just hold on. I would have said, you lying, you smoking something, because that ain't me. I would say, just hold on. Your journey is your journey. Every day is not going to be roses, right? We have to have the ability to endure. I know that might not be what some people want to hear right now. It's like, we need the juice. The juice really is in you. The juice is in your journey. The juice is in the life lessons that you pull from those hardships. Is not the end result, the success, the accolades. All I could talk about that all day. I got plenty of them, but it's the journey of getting there. That's where the golden nuggets are. So I would say hold fast to wherever you are. And if you're stuck, if you feel like you're stuck, you're not stuck. You've been planted somewhere. You're supposed to stay there for whatever reason. Pull what you need to pull, move forward. If there's something you don't have, something you don't know, find somebody that knows more than you. Find somebody to get the support. I've had plenty of mentors. I can count on my hands and toes that do different things, that have different talents. Not everybody knows everything. As long as you're willing to learn, as long as you're willing to keep your eyes open, network, connect, know that collaboration is not competition. Collaboration is often needed in order for you to grow. Um, and keep your eyes open in the field. There's so many things that you can do. And for me, I knew that I wanted to create a life where I didn't have to leave my children, that I could spend more time with especially my baby boy. I missed him walking, I missed his first words. And now he's almost 10, and I can be home with him. He's homeschooled. I can pick him up. I can take him places. I can do things that I never would imagine I would have done if I would have stayed in the mindset of this is not going to work out for me. That mind is such a powerful thing. What you plant in it does grow. Your ability to nurture yourself and allow yourself to make mistakes and not beat yourself up for it is key. Social work is such a vast, beautiful field. And if there's not a door for you, create your own, because I did. And I love my door. I'm about to create another one. Miss Brooke, don't laugh at me.
No, I'm loving it. You're like, listen, at the end of the day, all of your life experiences serve a purpose for you to be able to serve the person that's behind you, that's probably going through some of the same things you went through. So now you can be the light for them. And guess what?
Mm-hmm.
And if there's no door, like you said, you create your own door. You've created your door in the past, and you're creating a new door. And your business was birthed from your experiences. So tell us more about your business and what you do.
So, Journey to Licensure, again, it's more of a holistic consulting company. I do almost a little bit of everything. So, I do supervision. I do, of course, most people know me for the exam coaching. I also work for LinkedIn on their LinkedIn advisory community board. I'm also a top voice in social work on the platform out of 1 billion users. I also do a lot of personal branding consulting with social workers, especially on LinkedIn. I'm on 7 different platforms, but LinkedIn is my baby. Above all the platforms, I am a podcaster as well. I just finished season 1, 165 episodes in my first year. I'm now in season 2. I so there's a lot there. I also am a Amazon bestseller. I've had two social work journals that were birthed from that experience. One of them was called 90 Days of Prayer. The other was called 90 Days of Inspiration. One is a 5-time Amazon bestseller. The other one is just a bestseller. So I have a lot of different hats that I wear. So the coaching in terms of professional development, it is by case basis, depending on what's needed. And if I don't have the knowledge, I'll just refer them out to someone in social work that can do professional development. Like you, Miss Lequita, looks like I'm gonna have some personal people your way because I can't, I don't have the bandwidth. So I do a lot of different things. I think what helps me the most when it comes to my colleagues is really being able to listen to their needs, their experiences. And most of the time that I'm talking to them, it's interesting because I feel like I'm talking to a past version of myself. And that's where, again, for me, hearing students, hearing colleagues of mine that feel stuck in their process or they're in a negative mindset, I was there. So being able to hold that space, I can only hold that space for them because I've had those experiences. So I think that's what makes me pretty unique in terms of what I do.
Very unique. Because, like you said, you've taken all of your stuff, good, indifferent, learned lessons, and you've created a business around it, and also your life and your family to have that freedom and flexibility to be there for yourself, be there for your kids, probably do some traveling, and then also do the work that you love. And what's next
Yes.
for you? What's next?
What's next? Well, right now, I think what's next is probably doing more speaking engagements. So I'm working on that. I'm keeping my fingers crossed with NASW. I just submitted for their national conference for the first time, so I'm a little nervous about that. But I'm going to be presenting, hopefully, I'm waiting for, I should hear back to them in February, of really exposing my work that I've committed myself to for the last 3 years regarding my company, as well as some of the amazing stories that I have of social workers that have used my services, as well as the need for more, hopefully, more conversation around a holistic way of looking at the exam process, as well as social work in general, and hopefully get pushing some more ideas down the pike. But yeah, I want to brand out some more, but all in due time. I'm only in year 3. I've survived up to that point. So it's coming. So I haven't ironed all those things out yet, but I know I'm more so working on ironing out automation and continue to grow and stand in my lane and hopefully keep people inspired to keep going.
And I'm confident that you shall. So I thank you so much, Shara, for joining me today on Social Impact Sundays at 6.
Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. Well, I am Lequita Brooks, your host, and make sure you go to the socialworkmovement.com. Once again, make sure you go to the socialworkmovement.com to get involved as we're changing the narrative of the social work profession for social workers to be valued, respected, and well compensated. Until next time, have an amazing day.